The reason I work slip stitches first is because I think it prevents the cardigan from stretching, especially around the neckline where things can stretch and get quite out of shape. So I like to slip stitch around all of the outside first, but I realise it is quite a faffy step. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do it. I was using a 3.5 mil hook for the main cardigan, so I'm going to use a 4 mil hook just for the slip stitches and then swap back to this one for the edging. Just don't want the slip stitches to be too small or too tight. So I'm going to start at the bottom right hand corner, which if you're looking at it is the left hand, but if you're wearing it, it's the bottom right hand corner, and slip stitch up and around and back down to this corner. So I'm going to turn my cardigan sideways and attach my yarn in this bottom corner. So you're working with the right side facing out. So I'm just going to tie a knot and then put your hook in and pull up to make a loop on your hook. So in the pattern I suggest 3 slip stitches per 2 rows. So you would do like 1 on the end of this row, 1 in the middle and 1 on the end of this row. Then 1 on the end of this row, 1 in the middle, 1 on the end of this row, and just follow that pattern all the way up. That works really well for me. It works out like the perfect amount of stitches when I do my front edging. If your stitches are slightly taller because your tension is slightly different to mine, that's not a problem. You might need to work 4 slip stitches across 2 rows. And if they're shorter, you might need to work less. But I will say if you work too few, your front edging will be too tight and it will be pulling in, and what happens is this corner will start to turn up. So if your corners start to turn up and don't lie flat, you know you haven't done enough stitches. And if your front edging is slightly wavy, you've done too many. So try it with 3 per 2 rows and see how you get on. So I'm going to do 1, then 1 in the middle, which is, I always find there's a bit of a hole there anyway, a natural hole there. 2, and then 3. I try to always go under 2 strands of yarn so it's kind of strong. If you just go under 1 strand, it can sometimes not feel as strong. So, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, oops, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So just make sure that the slip stitches are not pulling too tight. I know that end is trying to curl up, but I can feel that it's not too tight, and I know that I'll be able to, that will settle down when I work the front edging on. So yeah, so that's how I work my slip stitches. So I'm going to work those up to the top corner. I've got 1 row remaining, so I'm actually going to work 2 slip stitches across there because it's better to be slightly loose than too tight. So when you get to the corner, you are going to do a 1 chain. So you're going to 1 chain, and that gives you a corner stitch in order to like turn your corner later on. I'm just going to move all this out the way. So now we are at like the front neckline, and we are going to go and put 1 slip stitch in each stitch across the top, which is really easy. Now we've got to the increase rows, which are the slanted ones, and because those rows are involved some slightly taller stitches, we're going to put 2 slip stitches across each of those 2 increase rows. So we're going to go sort of digging into the, I think it's the double treble here. You could even put 5 in if you wanted to. So I've done 4 slip stitches across there, and then I'm just going to carry on as normal round the back neck, and then I'm going to put 2 slip stitches in each of these two like increase rows, then 1 slip stitch in each stitch across the back neck, and then repeat the same thing down the other side. Okay, so I finished the slip stitches. So I've done 3 slip stitches every 2 rows up here, then 1 slip stitch in every stitch across here, and then 2 slip stitches across every like increase row, so the curved rows, and then back to 3 slip stitches every 2 rows up here, then obviously 2 slip stitches on each of the curved rows, 1 slip stitch in each stitch across the back, then 2 slip stitches in each of the curved rows, 3 slip stitches every 2 rows, back down to here, 2 slip stitches in each of the 2 curved rows, 1 slip stitch in every stitch across here. Make sure you do your 1 chain at each of these corners, forgot to mention that, so that you can work your increase into that 1 chain on the next row. Then 3 slip stitches every 2 rows down to the bottom corner, and then fasten off.